one of the great ones on CBS, and that is the Browns and the Titans. And both teams are 8-3. And can I sit here and say, well, yeah, it's partially a referendum on the Titans? Yeah, you could say that. But it is, and certainly a referendum on the Browns and their trajectory as a franchise. But this is a game where you take out the big fat marker, the kind of marker that I used to write graffiti with back, the real thick fat marker that I'd write on the trains. What? And the buses. What? Did you have those markers in Virginia?
Exactly. Yeah, of course.
The big fatties, right? You circle this game, and you say, all right, what do you got? What do you got, Baker? Who are you, Baker Mayfield?
And that's the question that I think we have to figure out. Baker Mayfield, I saw your tweet about where people would draft Baker if they knew what they'd seen after the last 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. And the majority of people are saying the second round. Now, there's a couple of later, I'm talking recent history. I'm not going back to, not even Tom Brady. Not even forget that. Mm-hmm. If you're drafting a quarterback in the third round, third round, think about who you're getting now. You're talking Drew Lock. You're talking Geno Smith. You're talking.
Dude, my life is tough enough.
I know.
Stop.
Christian Hackenberg.
Oh, jeez, gotta keep going. Hey, Bryce Petty in round 4. Why right? Stop there? We've been trying for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years.
But think about what you have. You have Drew Lock, who's in Denver. I mean, nobody thinks he's their future. They think he's a good quarterback. He's not your future.
That wasn't the thought a year ago, but it has shifted to that. I'm with you.
Yeah, you're right. I think at the end of last year, we're like, maybe this guy has some potential, but I think he is what he is. He's going to be a decent quarterback, but he's not going to be a Pro Bowler or an All-Pro type of player, right?
Yep, probably, sure.
You get a guy like Jalen Hurts, who's a little bit more of a project, kind of he's a maybe guy. We don't know if it's going to work in the NFL for Jalen Hurts. Russell Wilson's an outlier. I think you got to go back to 2014, I believe, till you find the Jimmy Garoppolo, draft, and Derek Carr in 2014, both in the second round. Yep. Second round. They were both the same round in the second round in 2014. So it's a lot of misses in second round quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, Baker Mayfield has earned that distinction just based on your poll. What, first round, second round, third round, fourth round? Most people don't see him as a first round pick. They see him and they view him and his production and maybe now even his trajectory as being that of a second round pick. And that's what. And again, he's earned that because he hasn't progressed. We saw him as a rookie, and he looked amazing. And it was, man, what's this kid's going to be like? He's going to bring that same moxie he had at Oklahoma, and it's going to work in the NFL. And it just kind of hit a ceiling really quickly. And now that you see this team winning, almost in spite of him in some regards, right? Baker's good. But Baker's not a superstar.
No.
The question is, do the Browns need him to be a superstar to win? And I think the answer is the way they're running the ball and the way they're playing defense, they don't. There have been some non-superstar quarterbacks that have been Super Bowl champions.
True. I don't think it's ever that simple, though, because I think at least applying to this season and applying to this game more directly, do they need Baker Mayfield to be a superstar? I would side with you, and I would say no, because they've got the best backfield in the NFL. They've got a good offensive line, finally have some good coaches, pretty good defense, opportunistic defense, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is, eventually, and we got into this with Dak, and it's a different conversation. It's a different skill set. The numbers are different, for sure. And the win totals are different. Dak's won a lot more than Baker has thus far in his career. And that's where it's not as easy to answer. Yes, for this weekend, they don't have to be a superstar. He can throw for 240 with a touchdown and no picks and average 6.6 yards an attempt. That's fine. And they could maybe win 4-quarter game, maybe move to 9-3. But you're not going to have the best running back tandem in the NFL forever. You're going to have to eventually pay the guy. That's where it gets complex. And that's where, like, my belief in Baker Mayfield is dwindled to the point where, so listen, he's certainly viable. Let's not mince this and get this twisted. He's functional. He's fine. When things around him are structured, he is not going to take a match to it like Jameis has or the Blaine Gabberts or scrubs of the past. Not that Jameis is Blaine, but you know what I mean. But I do have to at least, make a distinction here. So you're 8-3 like Tennessee, all right? The collective record against the teams that he's beaten so far this year, 24, 51, and 2. All right, well, what's the circumstances? What's the context behind that? He's beaten a 1-win team. He's beaten two 2-win teams. He's beaten 2 3-win teams. And he's beaten 2 4-win teams. Well, what about the 3 losses? What happened? Really, the 3 showcase games. Ravens, week 1, loss. $189, 54%, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. L. Week 6, Steelers. 119 yards, 56% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, L. And then finally, week 9, it's not quite a showcase, but the Raiders are good. Loss, 122 yards, 48%, no touchdowns.
Yeah.
No, I mean, when he plays a good team, he's played poorly. When he plays a bad team, the running attack leads him.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, it's as simple as that.
At the end of the day, that's who he is. And it's what he's put on tape, and I think that's what we can settle on. That's who he is.
No,
but I don't think the Browns I don't think they need him to be a superstar in order to win. And
But don't you need him to be a superstar to give him that money?
Yeah, but BT, we've been talking about this a lot. I swear
it's the NFL. That's why.
But I swear
it's the business.
I swear it's changing.
Okay.
It has to.
You've been saying maybe you're going to speak this into existence because trust me, we'd love to see it happen.
But how are you?
Hasn't happened yet.
But how are you an NFL team, and you have a Baker Mayfield at quarterback? Let's say they go 11-5 this year.
Okay,
not likely not happen. But
that's not implausible.
It's not implausible.
You go 3-2 the final 5 games.
That's exactly right. And let's say that happens, BT, and the Cleveland Browns finish the season 11-5, and you're like, holy cow, man!
Here we go.
The Browns, let's go. Now Baker keeps playing the same way. He throws for $150, maybe it's one game, maybe he throws for 98 yards. Who knows? But they keep winning. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And you get to the point where you have to say, well, Baker's a winning guy. Like he's good in our locker room. The guys like him. He's a leader for this team. He's not an elite quarterback, but you know what? We're winning. And so if you're the Browns and you're gonna all of a sudden go, I think I'm gonna disrupt my this winning thing that we have going on here. We're gonna bring in another quarterback. We're not gonna pay Baker Mayfield. We're gonna bring in another quarterback. And all of a sudden you might start from scratch again. So my point of
which is not the smart move.
Exactly.
That's why it's tricky.
My point of drawing you that way, BT, is because eventually they're going to have to decide what's Baker Mayfield worth. And we know what the history is of consistent starting quarterbacks in the NFL. They want $35 million a year. They want to be the next highest paid ever in the league because at the quarterback, it's the highest paid position. So whoever gets paid next is supposed to be the highest paid. That is an untenable situation because of guys like Baker Mayfield who are good enough to win, and he's not going to excite you. He's not making an all-pro team. He's not making the Hall of Fame. He's not that player, but he can win. And if he can win consistently, the league has to adjust to a player like this at that position, at the quarterback position.
That's a great point,
So,
T.
I mean, I think you're right, BT. I've been harping on this for years.
It's been years, but you've been right. You're ahead of the curve. You're right.
But I've been waiting for the example where it fit. Like there were certain examples that it didn't really fit. Like the guy just wasn't good enough. You know what I mean? Like Kirk Cousins, who maybe outplayed himself and then he got paid. But it wasn't the right example. A guy who can win. And who is winning in an organization that
Ryan Tannehill.
He's the example, but he did it unconventionally because he bounced. You know what I mean? He went somewhere else, and he didn't hit rock bottom. You know what I mean? It's not like he was out of the league and then he got his chance. I mean, he was brought in to be a backup, be an insurance policy in Tennessee, and when he took advantage of his opportunity. But I mean, if he had stayed in Miami and his exact same scenario had happened, get a deal. It's not crazy huge. It's good, but not the elite of the elite at quarterback money. Then he would have been the example. Baker Mayfield is the example with the team that drafted him because it's all about the team that drafted you. This is what I'm talking about. Team drafts you. They keep you for 5 years. They make a decision. We're going to pay you. You're going to be the next highest paid at the position. Dak Prescott is an example of that not happening and then get hurt. That was the dilemma. Now we found an example of a guy who can win, but's not elite, and the Browns are going to have to find a way to hold on to him because I think he is the guy that they need. Yeah. I just don't think he's going to be a superstar in the NFL.
Let's simplify. He's the guy they need, but he's not the guy.
Yes, but that's okay.
Yeah, well, it's okay to an extent.
It's okay.
Do you want to win a championship?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to win a championship, I mean, that's kind of a settle, man.
BT,
that's like picking up the 7 at the bar.
Look, I have my philosophies on football, and look, I told you the one about coaching. You got to be able to motivate. I mean, you got to be able to teach. You got to be able to motivate. You got to be able to make in-game decisions, right? There's certain criteria about winning championships with the quarterback position in mind. One is, are you a Hall of Famer? Because that's what it takes. History says it. 74%, BT. It's a huge number of championships are won by teams that have a quarterback who is going to be a Hall of Famer. Absent that, you better have one of the best defenses, certainly of that year,
yep.
Maybe of the era. We're talking about the Redskins back in the day when they were still the Redskins before they were Washington football team. You're talking about the Bears in '85. You're talking about the Buccaneers in 2002. You're talking about the Ravens and back in 2001 that I lost. You better have an elite defense if you don't have a Hall of Fame quarterback. So the question now becomes, Baker Mayfield, now we get an elite defense on this side. Are the Cleveland Browns an elite defense?
Elite? No, they're
exactly.
Good.
Can they be? That's the question.
Maybe.
So we're making the distinction. What do the Browns need to do? They need to go find the man at quarterback, or do they keep Baker at a reasonable number and go become an elite defense? I think the latter is more likely their path to winning a championship, especially in the black and blue division of the AFC North.
By the way, so the poll, the Tiki reference that I put up on my Twitter account, and very simple. If Baker Mayfield was redrafted, where would you select him? All right, round 1. And by the way, the gap between, and it's a little nebulous because you can't have a poll within a poll, but I mean, it's the first overall pick is vastly different from the 24th overall pick.
Yes.
So round 1 is all encompassing, but we all understand there's no way this guy is playing like a first overall pick, and he probably never will. 14.8% of you say round 1, round 2, 38%, which is fair. Round 3, 25.5%. Round 4, 21.9%. I think this is interesting, too, because you look at the Browns, and I know they're playing the Titans here, but Tannehill's different, transient, pedestrian, different path.
He's not with his mama anymore.
That's true. Mama don't love you. Nobody loves you like mama. Well, mama loves you. Nobody loves you like mama loves you. It's right. Really the way it goes. But the 8-3 Browns, contrast that to the 8-3 Buffalo Bills, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a person in America that knows a modicum about football that says, man, I don't know, Josh Allen, this guy's not really that good.
I know.
He's not playing that well. They're winning in spite of him.
Yeah.
They're elevated. No. I know that his September was much better than his October, and they kind of picked it back up. I'm not saying it's been the most even year in terms of production, but, I mean, for the first month, he was the MVP or number 2 or number. He was great. You know, he's borderline all-pro for the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. He's going to be a Pro Bowler, and they're going to win the division. They're going to win double-figure games. You know, and that, to me, is a very interesting way of looking at it. It's a same team record, two franchises, while the Bills have been more successful recently. Tyrod Taylor got to the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. The Browns are trying to take that big step, and the Bills are trying to take the big step. Who do you trust more?
Yeah.
And not even close.
You trust Josh Allen.
Not even close.
That's right, because he can do it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
He's a great athlete, and we've seen him put up he threw a couple 400-yard games this year.
Yes, he did. So, he had multiple as you said, a couple. That's right. So, you know, I'm looking at this, and I'm crunching the numbers, and, you know, been in the lab today, and I know he had the one game, 5 touchdowns against the Bengals. It's the Bengals, you know, and when you beat, you know, again, 8-3, there's different paths to get to 8-3, and maybe this 8-3 is the launching off point for, you know, the better part of the next decade or so, where the Browns make, you know, 4 or 5 playoffs, and maybe they win a couple of games, primarily via the wild card. Maybe they steal the division or 2, whatever. But when you beat, you know, the Jaguars, who won once, when you beat the Bengals twice, who have 2 wins, I mean, every team you beat stinks.
Yeah.
Except the Colts. Every team that you've beaten, Washington, we love Ron Rivera, love their coach, but they're a 4-win team. It is what it is. Every team, and they played them when they really hadn't found themselves at that point yet.
Yeah.
If they played them today, it would be a different story. I told my father-in-law's from Ohio, I'm rooting for this team. But it's hard to have any real conviction, and he's a devout Browns fan, any conviction for a team whose quarterback is being held up by the pieces around them. In the modern NFL. You referenced the great defenses from the past. You know, like, listen, excuse me, McMahon in 85 didn't have to be great.
No.
Phil Simms was better than McMahon, but Phil Simms didn't have to be Patrick Mahomes. The Giants' defense was sick.
Well, let me ask you this. Did Jared Goff need to be great? The Rams got to the Super Bowl.
But he was a lot better than this.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But
okay.
He's not I think he did actually make the Pro Bowl that season.
He did.
But he's not a perennial Pro Bowler. He's not a Hall of Famer. But they got to the Super Bowl.
Who would you rather have, Jared Goff or Baker Mayfield?
Right now, Jared
Goff.
Goff. There's no doubt about it.
I think everybody would say that.
Yeah, you're right.
There's
just a different level of trust that we haven't seen consistently enough out of Baker.
It's a big game. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.